Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Dentist Show Live. It's been a minute. I hope that you guys are all doing well. Tonight's conversation is about COVID. Do you know what? Since I posted the flyer about COVID, I've had so many personal people that are my friends that I didn't know. I had no idea that they have COVID. Some are in the UK, some are in Ghana, and it's really quite frightening because one, we're not really sharing, we're not really talking about it as much in Africa, as much as we should. Whether we think that actually, because the outside, the Western world, they're not coping, we're okay, everything's kind of back to normal, especially in Ghana. Things are back to normal. But how are you? How do you think we're handling COVID? Do you have any friends, any family members, or even yourself? Have you had COVID? And what was it like? What was it like? Is it as bad as they say it is? Is it not that bad? Did you have a lot of symptoms? How did you know? Did you come into contact with somebody? Is that how you found out? How was it for you? I just want to say a big thank you all for watching. Make sure that if you're watching for the first time, you like the page, you subscribe on YouTube, and then you share the link. Share on Twitter, share on Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those places you can share. But I do want to say a big thank you to all the people that support my show to make it happen. And first of all, I need to thank World Remit. Thank you so much, World Remit. You can join up to 5.7 million people around the world who are sending money back home to the continent. Make sure you join that train. Go to www.worldremit.com. It's the better way to send money, so send it right now. And a big thank you to Vesta London Beauty. She has amazing lip gloss. Small Black-owned business. We need to start supporting our own and continue to support them for them to grow. Go online and purchase her amazing product. And then I keep telling you about this amazing shitor that I have found. Prodigy Foods. She does spices, she does shitor, she does fufu now as well, guys. Amazing products. Go out there and support. Let's go out support. And then Aya cards, guys. She has amazing cards, right? She just had these beautiful ones for Christmas. She's got these new ones as well for birthdays, for Christmas, and all of that, guys. Go online and support. Let's support our own. She's on Etsy. Go on there and support and buy a card to send to a loved one. I want to find out where you guys are watching me from. Hello, Eric, Sarkaz, Frederick. I'm watching you live from my living room. Oh, hello, Frederick. Thank you so much for watching. Frederick, don't forget to share your page. Don't forget to like it. And let's, make sure that this conversation is not just for you, but it's for everyone. COVID is a very, very important topic. A lot of people are getting COVID. A lot of people have lost loved ones. Through COVID. Michigan, hello, Naomi. I really do hope that everybody is doing well. Okay. Oh, someone says they can't see me, Comfort. Can everybody see me? Akia, Frederick, Eric, can you guys see me live on either Facebook or YouTube? Give me a thumbs up if you can see me. I'm going to introduce my guests shortly. Hello, Jeff. Yes. Okay, I've got it. Jeff is watching from Harlow. Michelle from the US. Yes, Naomi says I can see you perfectly on YouTube. Christina says, yes, we can see you and hear you. Francis is giving me a thumbs up. That is great. Thank you. At least I know that you can see me. It's good to see you guys. It really is good to see you guys. Okay, let's keep sharing those pages. I can see you on Facebook. Anne Marie, thank you. People are watching from Tema. Wow. Thank you all for joining. Okay, so I think I'm going to introduce my first guest. Thank you for loving the hair. Thank you so much. Hello, Harriet. Thank you so much for joining the show. Today is about COVID. We are talking about COVID, how it's impacting our lives, our family, our work, our communication, staying at home, self-isolating, doing COVID tests. I think myself, I've had about, how many COVID tests have I done? It's too many, at least over 10, because I've had to travel. And so whenever you have to travel, you have to do a COVID test. I literally came back from Sudan 3 days ago. Again, I had to do some in Sudan. I had to do one when I arrived. And so it's getting a bit too much for me. I just feel like I don't even want to travel anymore, because you just have to go through all of that. Hello, Poku. Streaming might be a problem. The signal is... Oh, I hope everybody else can hear me and see me. But I am going to now introduce my first guest. I'm going to introduce John Boyd. John is a musician, a producer, a writer. The list goes on. Welcome, John. Hi, John.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Thanks for the invitation to join you on your show.
Oh, thank you so much for accepting. Thank you.
Congratulations for all of your success.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. John, you have enjoyed a very lucrative and interesting career. How did you stumble into all of the great things that you are doing and have done?
My answer is twofold. Some things I stumbled in, and some things were the result of an intentionality, where there was a plan and there was intention and there was purpose. So in terms of the stumbling part, I think it's a product of the other part of the intentions. And of course, when you lay a good foundation and work hard, and there are things that you're going to attract, and there are things that are going to happen by surprise. So I think the answer to your question is I stumbled into things by laying a good foundation so that I could stumble into things, and that's pretty much how I stumbled into things.
Fantastic. In which ways has COVID-19 disrupted some of the industries you are involved in?
Since I'm in the entertainment industry, music, obviously COVID has affected live performances, concerts, touring, all of those things with respect to anything that has to do with an audience. We in the music industry really depend on audiences and the ability to perform before people that gather, and all of that's been restricted with the shutdowns, and obviously for good reason, but it really has affected the entire entertainment industry and created some new opportunities, which are not as great because they're startups. But that's really how I personally have been affected.
Okay. When the news about COVID started, did you take it seriously at the beginning?
I think if I were to just be completely honest, it was something remote. I remember when I first heard about it, I was actually in California, and it came across my news feed, and I looked at it, and it was just didn't seem to be something that was close to home. So I think I grew in terms of taking it seriously as it got closer and more obvious to me. So eventually I took it serious, and but initially I was pretty much indifferent, uh, pretty neutral to COVID-19.
Okay. And have you been affected by COVID-19 personally? Have you had COVID-19?
Yes, yes. So
And how was that, and how did it affect your family and yourself?
I was diagnosed with COVID-19 around September 15th of last year, and I had just got back to Cody, Wyoming from Charleston, South Carolina, where I was planning a concert there, and I got back home and I wasn't feeling well, and it was pretty weird. My symptoms were pretty weird, and it was affecting my breathing. And so some friends of mine encouraged me to go in, and I went in. I was officially diagnosed. So in my case, it was pretty serious
Wow.
because I needed heavy oxygen. And when I first went into the hospital, they diagnosed me with both COVID and pneumonia and sent me back home and said that if it gets worse, to come back. So it did get worse, and all of my family flew in. Most of my children flew in, and I think 4 or 5 days after that, I went back in, and I had to be taken in by emergency EMS. That's how
Wow.
progressively worse it got. So I went into uh, intensive care at that point.
Wow.
So I was in the hospital, I think, for about 12 days or so, and it really was devastating to my family in terms of like the news of me having it and the risk associated with having it to the degree that I had it. Uh, so I think it affected my family more emotionally,
Mm.
psychologically, and my one of my daughters really waged a international prayer campaign, which went on for a few days, and there were thousands and thousands of people
Wow.
that were praying for me.
Wow. And what were your symptoms like when you started getting symptoms? Did you just think it was maybe a cold or a flu? What exactly was happening to your body?
My symptoms really had to do with my breathing. I think my breathing was irregular. I didn't have a lot of congestion or anything. I think mainly it was just restricted airflow. I was very fatigued, very tired. My appetite was gone. Lack of energy. These were things that I experienced, and so I basically stayed in the bed a lot. And whenever I got up, I lacked energy. Probably, I would say I had maybe 20% of the energy that I normally have, or
Mm.
maybe no more than a quarter of the energy if you were to evaluate it in those terms. But really, it was the breathing.
It was the breathing. And before that, were you actually wearing masks? Were you taking the precautions? Were you hand washing? Were you social distancing? Were you doing all of those things?
I would say I was pretty much compliant. Uh,
Okay.
I live in an area where the enforcement of most of those rules are voluntary. Uh, so because it's the area that I live in is a very low population, and people are naturally live far. They're not really living close to each other. But whenever I traveled, yeah, generally it was mandatory to wear masks, and I complied with that, and all of the other things. I basically was conscientious to follow those guidelines.
Wow. I'm going to come back to you. Next, I'm going to bring on Raymond, who was probably in a similar situation to you. Raymond, welcome to the Dentist Show.
Thank you so much. I'm privileged to be here.
Thank you for coming on. Raymond, I mean, you've heard John's story. Is it similar to yours?
The only identification I can connect with what he has said is the part to do with the difficulty with breathing. I think the trajectory of getting to know when I got COVID, the trajectory of getting to appreciate what was really happening to me, and the commencement stages are way different. So I get the impression that in his case, it was a smooth commencement, some slight feverish conditions and all of that. Mine was a bit rough right from the beginning. Mine was
tell us the
intense. Mine was intense feverish conditions right from. So let's get it this way. The whole of 2020, between January 23 and December 6, I was in the UK. I came to Ghana to cover elections, and indeed, the multimedia group I worked for brought me back to Ghana from school to cover elections. So I came to cover the elections from the 7th of December to the 20th and 22nd. It was on the 23rd that the signs showed up. I had no prior engagements about tests before all of this will happen, except at the airports and the things when I was coming to the country. So the signs came in abruptly, and within a matter of days, I had deteriorated from somebody who could, on his own, take drugs, go to the hospital and ask for a COVID test, into somebody who was purely immobilized in every inch of my body, unable to move, and having to be hospitalized for a pretty long period. So I think that's where the difference really is. And maybe how his body identified the symptoms and started developing within the period was wonderful. But in my case, it was intense and abrupt from the beginning. In fact, when I showed up at the hospital, I was immediately put on the oxygen support, put in a stretcher, and they had to find me an emergency ward to put me.
Wow.
So that's how different my case was. And even then, personally, I could not breathe. It was so hard and was so difficult that for every single day, they had to upgrade the kind of breathing device they were giving me into a more complex one.
Wow.
And this was within a matter of days. So whilst people got to the hospital and got better with time, as in they are rushed to the hospital, like I was rushed to the hospital, and within days, the situation is that, oh, now we have stabilized him. We have moved him from ICU to a much more improved, what they call it, ward where he's recovering. I was degenerating by the second.
Wow.
They had to, first, I went in with just some, they call it nose props, as in help me to breathe small.
Yes.
Then they had to change it into bigger tools for breathing, covering my mouth. In fact, there's a part I'm not aware of because I was basically out. But when they took me to the ICU, they had to put me on a ventilator for days.
Oh.
And as for the excruciating pain, of course, the things I've heard about COVID and read, the age group I belong to, a pretty young, youthful age, I mean, my early 30s, with no underlying medical condition. none established over my years of being on this earth. I am not the healthiest of men on earth, but I am pretty cautious about my health in ways that I was so certain and sure that going into the hospital, I didn't carry with me all the life-threatening conditions that have been discussed, exposed, and convinced people about. And in my journalism career, I had also made COVID a very interesting area to read. And because I had time off for academic work, it was something that I was following keenly. Unfortunately, within the period, it just dawned on me that the underlying conditions which were supposed to make people's situations worsen or aggravate it, in my case, were non-existent. And yet, I was in a precarious situation.
Wow. But Raymond, were you taking the precautions to prevent the COVID from occurring? Were you wearing your nose mask, at these, because you're basically covering the elections, which,
Yes.
so were you doing the right things?
Let me divide it into two.
Okay.
When I was in the UK, basically I was in school, so there wasn't much activity. So precautions were limited within the enclave of schoolwork and all of that. So they were spot on. And because I was in Buckingham, it's not a very London-like kind of community where there's a lot of activity, hurly-burly and all of that. So my contacts with others were extremely limited too. But when I came to Ghana, I was afraid about how generally the people were laxed when it came to how they followed the rules and basic procedures. So I took it upon myself to be a bit more stringent.
Okay.
In following the protocols. And even in my election coverage, because of my background, I did more of the armchair one. So I spent 80% of the time in the studios of Joy 99.7 and Joy News. I wasn't the one on the grounds with the boots going from rally to rally. Indeed, most of my coverage had been analysis from studio. So I wasn't as out there, one. Two, very lax with precaution. And three, very much disengaged when it comes to following the rules, because I believed generally when I returned to Ghana, people were not following rules, so I needed to do more. And I'm not the outgoing person too. So I'm not the one you find at public gatherings and all of the other potentially explosive or potentially COVID explosive places. So that is what really shocked me, because I, to a very large extent, was careful. To a very large extent, I live with my wife and small family.
Yeah.
And she's also not the out there kind of person, but she's a journalist too. We were not people who were not mindful of the things we had to do. And that small grouping, mostly when people ask me, so where do you get it? I just laugh and say, I can't pinpoint it, because largely I wasn't really heavily exposed, except maybe in my immediate environs.
Okay.
And that's one thing that perhaps in Ghana's general response has been on the low side. So it's fairly possible that I met people, and of course, in my line of work, I'll meet people who speak briefly and all of that. People who are hale and hearty might have COVID, but may be asymptomatic. Even though I wore the mask in most of these instances, I can even admit there were times that when I walk into the office, I had a mask on. In the course of the day, within an hour or two, I will not have a mask on. But later on, I'll get the mask on before I leave the precincts of my office. So, largely, I didn't think Ghanaians were of the opinion that unless they see you sick, coughing or anything, they needed to take extraordinary precaution. And that perhaps could have been how I might have contacted people who were asymptomatic and yet carrying COVID, transferred it to me, and I also walked around with it within the period.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, the identification to deterioration was so quick. It gave me no proper time to reconstruct my path, to put it in the perspective that I can actually put it now.
Yeah. Wow. It looks like you've gone through a lot. I mean, when I read your Facebook post, which I've put up on the screen, that's when I was like, wow. I don't know whether you can see it on the screen. I don't know whether.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. Can you read it out to us, for my viewers?
Okay. So a second, I can see, but let me do it from my laptop.
Okay.
I'm just going to it right now.
Okay.
Yes. So what I put up on Saturday morning was that this is Gratitude Saturday, my COVID story. And I said, I rise up this day to thank the Almighty for keeping me alive. COVID-19 battered, bruised, and brought me to the lowest ebb. There was a point when the going got tough and they kept upgrading my respirators for oxygen with more complex machines. I just asked God to take my life away and put me out of my misery. But God came through for me. And I'm eternally grateful to my wife, Miss G Ghana, who braved the storm to help me pull through it all. To my doctor, Dr. Tanko, those wonderful doctors at Nyaho Medical Center, especially Ofori Auntie and Dekpo, and their lovely nurses. I say Aiko. Then I added the caution. Finally, friends, I lived most of the year in the UK without COVID. I got it in Ghana and it almost killed me without any underlying medical condition. So please be careful. This was when
Uh-oh. I think we have.
and this was when they told me that, Charlie, you are is there a problem? Okay. Well,
I can hear you now.
So this was when they had told me that I had improved. Are you okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, brilliant. So this was when they had this Saturday morning statement was my reflections about the excruciating pain that had gone through. In fact, I wrote almost 4 pages, but I needed to keep it short. I needed to keep it simple. And this is long, but that was just me thanking people. The detailed experience, I couldn't. That's why I summed it into the battered, bruised, and brought me to my lowest ebb. Because to me, it was the most painful experience I've gone through since childhood. And this includes at the point where, when I was a child, I had to feed out of hospital tubes and all of that. When I had to spend a year out of school for other healthcare related matters. This was the worst that has ever happened to me throughout my life. And I was so grateful that I could breathe fresh air. I was no longer having to be constricted in the face and in the mouth with something stuck down my throat, forcing air down the windpipes. And even as I speak to you, I mean, they still tell me you are not healed, as in you are not recovered. They still tell me you can't walk to work tomorrow. They still tell me that your lungs have been so battered and bruised that you need a lot more time. And of course, I'm taking a lot of drugs and all of that. But compared to, let's say, a week ago, to me, it was a done deal for me.
Wow.
To me, it was, well, I doubt I'll survive this for me. So that's how all of this comes together for me.
Wow. I mean, so in your mind, you were going to die. COVID was going to kill you. You could not breathe. You could not do anything. You thought that you were going to die.
I have read the instances people felt there was no longer life in them. I've read lots of books about the terminal stages of life where people reflect about what they want to do with their lives or called for help. In my case, there was a moment I lied down, my eye was open, I felt activity around me, but all that I was saying within me was that, God, if this is how you want me to go, let it be quick and painless because the current state is unbearable. I recall it vividly because I had tears streaking down my cheeks and I had so much pain within me. I couldn't say it out of my mouth, but that is all that I was thinking. That night perhaps was the longest night I've had in my life because that was not one of those days where I was being treated, I was asleep and didn't know what was happening. In this case, my eyes were opened. I was feeling pain. It was not ending. I couldn't breathe. It was as if somebody had forced something down my throat to the point that a small space was available to force air in and out. And that was even not happening. It was as if they held your nose and you were drowning. You are clutching at something, but you cannot grab onto anything. And yet there's no strength in the arms to even clasp your own hands. Those were the moments I thought, oh, wow, this is how people ordinarily live this world. And I'm there.
Wow.
I am really almost gone. I mean, the next time I opened my eyes, I was still in a lot of pain. But it just so appeared to me that a doctor was talking to me about, you have to relax, you have to stay. And in my case, my vitals were not getting any better. And that's how they're also very worried for me. So this man is basically immobile at one place, lying down, not knowing what is happening around him. But on the doctor's side, they were not seeing any improvements. They kept running their checks. My temperature was still very high. They had put all the drips on me, trying to make sure that they reduce and all the paracetamol in the world to numb the pain. And yet, I'm not sure they were seeing the results that they were seeing. So in my later conversations with them, some of them are amazed as to how somebody with my state of health could have gone through that phase. Then they tell me, COVID treats everybody differently. And I mean, up to now, I still don't understand it. Up to now, I'm grappling some of the things that I felt I had gone through and putting them in the perspective that should make sense to me. But in all of it, I didn't think I was an agent for a key COVID fight because clearly age is not a problem.
Yeah.
General health was not a problem. The things I thought about, and at some point in time, I felt maybe I'll get COVID. But I felt it will be, I'll get COVID for 2-3 days, take the drugs, and I'm back on my feet. Because I've heard stories of people going through that. Now, there's this very terrible story that rings in my head. When I was lying in the bed there in the hospital, it reached a point I had tuned out of everything but the monitors. So I could sense the people who were close to me, the other patients in the hospital, when they turned off their monitors. I didn't know whether they were turning off the monitors because their health had improved or they had died. But all those things played strongly in my mind that I'm still at the crossroads where the next person to me is either dying or getting better health. And I held on to that hope that if God really wanted to put me in the group of those who would be clicking to health or clicking to better health or clicking to death. Of course, days later, I felt when the improvements were coming. The happiest moment I had was when they brought me back to the initial, is it respirator that they put in my nostrils?
Yeah.
So after going through all the complex ones, they started removing the complex ones and de-escalating the complexity of the machines I was using in breathing into simpler ones. Those were my most joyful moments. In fact, those were the times I thought, now things are happening. And I also remember that when, of course, I'd not eaten for God knows how long and all of that, and I didn't really care. There is this soup that my wife brought to me. The day I drank the soup and I struggled to drink, I was trying to drink a small part of it. I felt like they have put fire down my entire system, through down my throat. And to me, it showed me that my not the respiratory system, my digestive system itself had gone through a lot of pain, that drinking just soup was a very difficult task for me to do. Well, but as you can see, now I can talk. And
You can talk. Trust me, we're glad you can talk. At any point, John, did you also feel like you were on? That was it. Did you ever feel that way, John?
I can't say that I reached that depth.
Okay.
I do remember there were one or two times when my oxygen machine stopped working, and I was like on 70% oxygen. So there were like 60 seconds or 2 minutes where I was sitting in my bed and trying to find the alert system to notify my nurses that my machine had stopped and I couldn't breathe. Wow. So that was probably one of the most frightening experiences of my life. Fortunately, they knew that the machine had stopped because they were monitoring it from outside the room. But at that point, I remember waking up and having all these tubes tied around me and trying to figure out how I was going to get to the door to let them know that I wasn't, my oxygen had stopped. So it really is it really is a frightening thing to get to a point where you can't breathe at all and you have no support.
Absolutely. I'm going to move on to Debbie Bajuku. She's a stylist, a content producer, my own special stylist and makeup person. Debbie caught COVID, but she had no symptoms. Debbie, welcome to the show. Tell us about your experience and how you got in contact with COVID.
Hello. So I'm in my 14th day. I'm going to do my test tomorrow to make sure that it's gone. So basically, I had 0 symptoms. My friend just texted us that he tested positive. So everybody should just go and check. And they had all had symptoms after a few days. It's been 14 days and I still have nothing. So I was actually in doubt. I got the test twice. Because when I got the first one, it was positive. 2 days later, still nothing. So I went back and it was still positive, but still no symptoms. It's my 14th day and I still have nothing. Never coughed, never had sore throat, no headache, like absolutely nothing. So I've
no
just
loss of appetite, no loss of appetite.
Nothing. I'm actually eating a lot. Like everything is just normal. Everything is normal, 0. But all my friends are going through it. Some had rashes. One is asthmatic, so he was like, breathing was not really okay for him, but I'm still here. No symptoms at all.
No symptoms whatsoever, not even one. You decided to go and do the test twice.
I did it twice. So even when I did the second time, the doctor was looking at me like, you're positive. Why are you here in 2 days? I was like, I'm not sure because I'm not getting anything. So then she explained that there are certain people that don't have it. But then you can imagine the number of people that are having fun with no symptoms. Because I was scared because I live with my parents and they're older. So I had to just lock myself in the room because I could have been spreading it. But luckily, none of them have it. Like I could be spreading without even knowing. Like I could even have it in my system for a very long time and not even know. Because we are always here in Ghana, we're always waiting to cough before we go and get the test.
Yes. Absolutely. So And I think you guys are the dangerous ones. You're the ones that probably gave it to Raymond, gave it to John. You're the ones that don't have any symptoms whatsoever. And
I
so
know.
you think that you are normal and you are spreading the coronavirus. And do you think, Debs, that you have been taking the precautions as you should?
I was in the beginning, and then I started, like, I was taking my vitamins and things, and I work out too. So I was able to escape it for a long time till when I let my guard down, that was when I got it. So now it's like I'm going back to doing the same thing. But the thing is, when I get home, I take my mask off because I'm home. But I got it from a close friend, because when you get home, you don't know who has it or who has come into contact with who. So you're basically going to take it off. You just don't know who you get it from, because you can get it from home or outside.
Yeah. But Raymond and Debs, I think Ghana, we feel as if COVID is not in Ghana. So
I don't think they think COVID is not in Ghana. It's just that the rate at which people, like the younger people, are like healing and stuff, they feel like, oh, it's just because now they are making jokes with it, like, oh, it's malaria. So people are getting it, and in 5 days they are okay. So people are just not taking it seriously, because everybody's like, oh, we know what to do when we get it. You just go and get this, because everyone is doing self-medication here.
Okay. And since you've had it, have you had a lot more friends say, "Oh, I've had it. Oh, I've had it."
Oh yeah, because now, before, when you get it, was kind of like a secret, because people didn't want people to know, because then they start shying away from you and stuff. But now it's like, oh, it's normal. All of us, we are going to get it anyway, so don't worry, it's normal. Like, they're treating it very normal now, and so many people are saying that, oh, I even had it like last week. I was just coughing and this, like, they are treating it very normal here. Wow. And so many people are also not getting tested, because testing in Ghana is expensive. It's not free. So people don't want to go and test until they've actually, like, they are in bed or they are coughing seriously. Because it's like, I don't want to use my money to go and test, and then it comes out that I'm negative. That means I've wasted my money, so I won't go. So that's what it is. Because there are certain people that we told that, oh, we've gotten, like, there's a COVID scare and whatnot, and some are like, I'm not showing any symptoms, so me, I don't care, I'm still going to the party. They didn't test because nobody wanted to spend money. And
so do you think that's another issue that Ghana is probably facing?
Because it's contagious. So tests should be cheaper or even free, so people can actually go in more. A lot of people are not going in because of the price. So they are just like, oh, I'm coughing small. Okay, what do I have to take? What did you take? Oh, I took this antibiotics, I took this. Then they just do self-medication and that's it. And some don't even check. So me, for instance, I knew how close I was with the person, which is why the minute he told me, I rushed to get tested, because I live with my parents and I can't put anybody in danger. So I quickly just went. When I got it, I called my mother on the phone when I was in my room that, okay, this is what happened to me. So nobody should come close to me. I'm locking myself in my room. If you're bringing me food, drop it in front of my door, knock, I'll pick it up. And that's it.
How much is the test in Ghana? How much did you have to pay for the test?
Some of my friends paid 500, but I paid 350 cedis. So $500 is like, 500 cedis is almost like $100 to get tested. So a lot of people are doing it. It is expensive.
And was it the next day you got the results, or was it same day?
Yeah. No, you don't get it same day. You get it in 24 hours.
In 24 hours. Okay. And do you think there is a huge still stigma of having COVID?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raymond, what do you think? You're on mute. You've muted yourself.
Okay, forgive me. There is, and it's what confounds me about all of this. On one hand, there are people who are living in denial, first and foremost.
Yes.
It's not as if they don't want to think people will get COVID or people are getting COVID. They've actually resigned themselves into thinking that it will happen, it may happen, but it's not a big deal.
Yes.
On the other hand, immediately somebody like myself puts out a statement that this is what I've been through, I am flooded. And I'm flooded with people with lots of messages, not only saying that, oh, I'm so happy you didn't die, but saying, but how was it possible that you could also get the thing? Charlie, that means that you and we have to stay away for a very long time. And I need to explain to them that, no, listen to me. I've been in the hospital for almost 3 weeks. So if there is anybody who's gone through proper test and care, I think I have gotten that. The danger out there is you who has not taken it upon yourself to let me do the comparison here. When I was in the UK, Buckingham University made sure that I went through about 4 different tests at different times, all negative. It reached a point I thought they were worrying me. I didn't pay a pesewa for any of those. The only time I paid for test was when I was coming to Ghana, the PCR test, and also the one at the airport. In fact, at the airport, I complained. I thought I had gone through so many tests, it was unnecessary repeating the process. Fast forward to having to come to the people I know. I know some of my colleagues go through tests consistently. I also know that we have let our guard down as a country consistently, that we are not doing testing and tracing. The thing we started with, you remember when Ghana instituted this lockdown and started receiving all the early numbers, there was a vigorous attempt to do test and trace people. As I speak to you, and I'm not indicting the system. I'm not indicting the system in any way. As I speak to you, nobody has spoken to me about the people I've contacted during the time I got COVID.
Wow.
So that there has not been any contact tracing with me at all. Of course, the only contact tracing I do for myself is my wife. But COVID did not start overnight. It started with me contacting people from the 23rd, which is when I saw a major sign, which means it's even possible that prior to 23rd, I could have actually still had COVID for days. Contacted colleagues, contacted professionals, stood close to people, not in extremely close proximity, but nobody, as I speak to you today, in officialdom or even in healthcare, has asked Raymond, who do you think you have been in close proximity with? And that baffles me because, assuming I walked around for 1 week, went to visit friends, family, and these were festive moments. I had been away for a year. The expectation would have been that I would be interested in going to see friends and other people. In fact, I had canceled engagements with my in-laws because of this. Assuming I had visited all of these people, these are all potential COVID patients. But then, as I speak to you, I have to volunteer the information to the family. I have to volunteer the information to everybody I thought probably would have been exposed. But nobody in officialdom has asked, how do we contact trace the people you have gone through so that we know who to look out for a test, who to look out for a sign, who to look out for a symptom, so that we can at least be in complete control of the current situation. That is what baffles me. Maybe we are all relying on the general thinking that the African is largely improved when it comes to dealing with COVID. And that COVID has not had as much toll on the continent as people perceived it could, mindful of the rather not so strong health systems. And also the fact that generally our precondition to conceive a disease condition based on microbes is limited. Because the microbe mentality is not the Ghanaian mentality, and I've known this my life. So it's not a big deal. It is on that background that I feel Ghana and most of Africa is very laxed. So when I hear and want to discuss with my people this conversation about a new strain, it reached a point people had moved on. They had basically resigned COVID and everything related to it to the background and not carrying out supposed to be done. Unfortunately for us in Ghana, the electioneering period also pushed it back to the back burner.
Yeah.
It made authority not have so much of the moral when to be telling people to wear masks when the politicians really were not, clearly. Because they'll tell you that the people say they want to see my face, but they can't see my face when it is covered with mask. And how do they vote for me if they can't see my face? So I had to remove it at the point in time to engage them. So generally, I think we are laxed in policy, laxed in response, and laxed in general apathy towards the situation. I'm praying it doesn't. And the thing with having lax situations is that they are always there, Raymond, Aquas, people who really suffer in the process. And I am lucky. I got proper health care. I got my company paying for the bills. If I tell you how much has accrued within the period I spent in the hospital, you'll be shocked. That amount of money cannot be raised by the ordinary Ghanaian who is in my state, and something that we cannot quibble over. People
Raymond, how much
dying.
exactly how much did the bill come up to? Just so that people are aware of how serious COVID.
So far, what I know, when I was leaving the hospital, it was almost 16,000.
Wow. That's 16,000 Ghana cedi. That's about $3,000.
Yes, a little bit more than that.
Yeah. Wow.
And this is because even an earlier and other parts have been taken care of differently. But ask me, I understand the Ghanaian salary strange.
Yeah.
I understand the general incomes of the people. If anybody was in my state, without support from a company like Multimedia, there's no way we would have survived it. And on the sidelines, let me not also indict the system more, but truth ought to be told. Even getting to get treatment at the hospital that I got treatment in is a privilege.
Yeah.
I know people, and they are telling me their stories now more than ever. I know people who struggled all through to secure similar places. Let me tell you, the hospital was basically a superstar hospital because the people I saw around me are people who have also occupied beds close by, were prominent people. I was, in all fairness, the least significant. So the cost aside, having systems to manage properly, not the general people who can take 2 days and recover and all of those, but people with what happened to me, is also something that, imagine if I were living in the Savannah region, in a place where there might be only a district with a single doctor, and the only district hospital is a health post. By the time I would have been able to get that respirator on my nostril, I'm convinced I would have been dead. So in my reflections, those are the things that weigh heavily on my mind.
Yeah.
And that is why it is more important that you take the precaution not to get to where I got to. Because chances of survival are 1, slim, 2, extremely expensive, and 3, out of the reach of the ordinary person. I am ordinary, but by grace of God, there were support systems that pushed me in place.
Yeah. I mean, your story, honestly, when I saw it on Facebook, I was touched, and I then had to reflect on, even how now, I think all of us kind of let our guard down in Ghana, in terms of wearing masks and stuff like that, but when I read it, I was like, gosh, you know what? Prevention is better than cure. And so we need to be making sure that those masks are really, really put on, because if you have somebody like Debbie who's sitting next to you, who, doesn't show any signs and symptoms, you could definitely catch it. Now, I'm going to go over to Comfort, who is a nurse. She's a student nurse in Atlanta. And she has, when she saw the post on Instagram, she was like, Denta, I'll let her explain, what she has seen in her hospital and how a lot of people have also died and, what her experience is. So welcome, Comfort, onto the show. Hi, Comfort.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
I'm well. Hi,
Good.
everyone. Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
So, Comfort, tell us about your experience with COVID.
So, it's been a journey. I was first working in a plasma center in about June. And when COVID first started and I heard about it, as a phlebotomist, we were immediately told to start wearing masks. We had to separate the beds where people would come give their plasma donations. We had to do it 6 feet apart. We were not allowed to sit in the break room at the same time. It was just a lot of changes that came about when we first were really aware that it was coming to the United States and that the numbers were increasing and rising. There was a lot of changes that we had to make in my workplace. Then school got shut down, so I was no longer a nursing student on campus, but a nursing student online. So I had no clinical experience. There was nothing. I just had to do everything at home. So with that transition, I left my previous job and kind of stayed home for a while and started looking for a hospital position, just because I wanted to get boots on the ground and learn more, because I knew that with COVID, I wouldn't be able to get the clinical experience that I needed as a nursing student. Funny enough, while I was at home looking for a job, is when I contracted COVID. I don't know how. It could have been somebody asymptomatic like Debbie, just spreading it to everyone. But we were pretty compliant. We were wearing masks everywhere, washing hands, hand sanitizing. That's something that I'm pretty kind of used to, because we always having to hand wash in, hand wash out. So I'm used to doing that. So it was kind of like when I got it, I don't know how or what happened. It was just, I had a fever for about 3 to 4 days, and then I was okay. But then I didn't eat much, loss of appetite. There was no coughing, there was no difficulty breathing. And I think what I've come to learn now is because of the way I was self-proning at home, which I didn't know that it would help for COVID until I started working in the hospital and noticing that that is a order that the doctors order for patients. But I naturally just sleep like that. And proning is where you sleep on your belly, face down with the pillow like your head to the side and sleeping on your belly. And that is something that helps with breathing when it comes to COVID. So I was already doing that. I naturally sleep like that. But I didn't know that maybe that could have been why I didn't have any breathing issues. Besides that, I had the weirdest symptom out of the ones that I've seen, even with the patients that I have, was sensitivity to light.
Wow.
I had to turn off all the lights. Blinds were covered. If I was going outside, I had shades on. And it wasn't that it was super bright. I just could not take the light in my eyes. And I had pain. It was like achy pain. And I would just sleep for ends on. And it was weird. It was like, I felt like I had a regular flu, but something more. And that's when I went, I think about the 4th day was when I was able to get up and go get the COVID test. And when I got in, it was positive. I just went straight back to my room and quarantined for the 14 days.
Wow. And how was it like working in the hospital? At the beginning when there were, COVID patients coming, how was it like on the ward?
So I joined the hospital field about in August. After I quarantined for the 14 days, tested negative, is when I was accepted into a position as a nurse extern, and then I joined the hospital. When I went, at that time, COVID numbers had actually, I wouldn't say decreased, but the number of patients from the time that it was really severe in March had depleted. So maybe on my floor, we would have at least 6 to 7 patients on the floor, where each, team or each nurse would have maybe one or two. But from August till now I go to work and I see 15, 16 patients on the list of COVID patients. And out of those 15, 16, I might have 12. I might have 4 of them. I might have 6 of them. I might have 8 of them to work with as a nurse extern. So it's been a dramatic increase over, especially when the winter time and the fall season came in, is when the numbers started increasing, because I feel like people got complacent. They were like, okay, COVID's, decreasing again. But as healthcare workers, we kept letting people know that the peak is coming, the peak is coming. And then the peak hit, where I was like, oh my gosh, like, where did it come from? It hasn't been anywhere. It's just been that people are not getting tested and they're not taking it as serious as they should.
And did you find that a lot of people, our skin color, were getting it more in your hospital?
Definitely. There was an increase in African Americans coming into the hospital, especially after the fall wave. I was seeing more and more. And funny enough, I realized that a lot of them that were coming in were actually about or around my age or a little bit older. They weren't the older adult group, age group, and they were asymptomatic. So you would go in their room and they're, channeling the TV. There's no cough anywhere. They're walking around. Some of them are exercising in the room. They have it. They're just there to be monitored, but there's no oxygen. There's nothing for them. They're just giving them the medication, the zinc, the vitamins, and things like that.
John, what medications were you given when you had your COVID?
I think I was given remdesivir for, I think, like a 10 days. And I think I also got plasma, zinc, just a variety of medications.
Okay. Debbie, what medications were you given or were you told to buy?
Zinc, vitamin C, chloroquine. What else? Yeah, that's it. And then painkillers, which I never used.
Okay. And Raymond, are you there? Okay, I think he's on mute. But Comfort, so what? Okay, Raymond, what medication were you given? You're on mute. What medications were you given?
I hope I'm on now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Brilliant. So the first set of drugs I got were, there is this particular one. I am tracing the exact list because I kept it with in my messages. So the first one was, if you give me a second, yes, there's this drug that they call
Raymond? Okay, I think I've lost him. But Debbie, somebody asked whether you did the antigen test or the PCR test.
So there was,
Did I do the?
there was
No, I
Max.
don't think it was the
Hold on, Raymond, for 1 second. Hold on, Raymond. Yeah, Debbie, somebody has asked, did you do the PCR test or the antigen test?
Hello?
Hello?
Jesus, hold on.
Go on, Debbie.
I can't really tell the difference of what I did because I wasn't thinking. I was just confused, and I just entered that. Okay, someone told me this, that. So, if you can explain further.
So, did they put the how did they do the test for you? Was it down your nose or was it by blood?
So
It was a throat. Okay. Okay. So that's a PCR test.
okay,
That's a PCR test.
that's the one I did twice because I wasn't sure.
Okay. Raymond. Oh, his reception is not good. Raymond, we can't hear you. Okay, I'm gonna take Raymond off. Guys, I know that some of you have okay, Raymond is back. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yes, brilliant. So the list of drugs I actually had was Zitromax 500 mg doses. There's doxycycline.
Doxycycline.
Uh-huh. Uh-oh. You've muted yourself. We can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think it's better now.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. So it was Zitromax 500 mg, doxycycline, zinc, and vitamin C. Those were the first set of drugs that I was given. Then, when within hours, about 3 or 4 hours into it, within that period, they insisted on adding paracetamol and also there's this other one, diclofenac. I was given to understand because of the excruciating pain I was going through, those things were supposed to help at least stabilize my situation. But in all fairness, they didn't. If they did any work at all, it was for an hour or two.
Wow.
It was when I got to the hospital. I don't know the combination of drugs they used finally at the hospital. There were many of them. There were a lot of them through my veins, through my, what they call it, drips, through the injections and all the things that they put together. But there were a lot of them.
Okay. 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 So I want to ask all of you, and guys, if you have any questions, please put your questions out now, and I will ask the panelists before we wrap up. But my first question goes to John. John, would you take the vaccination? There's been a whole lot of myths and conspiracy theories, with this vaccinations. Would you take a vaccination, and if so, why?
That's a difficult question. I'm inclined personally to not take it because and I don't want to necessarily influence other people's decisions, but personally, I'm inclined not to. I think the process of developing the vaccine was fundamentally too fast, and one cannot have the answers to the question of what are the long-term effects of the vaccine, because the vaccine is something new. So you can't, I mean, you can do trial tests within a certain parameters, but there's nothing that's going to compete with the answers that time give you. And we really don't have that. So I'm not inclined. So that, but I wouldn't argue with people that make that choice, that take that risk, and it's just their decision. But personally, I'm not inclined to do that.
Okay, all right. Comfort, if you were given the choice, I mean, as a nurse, I don't know whether you can actually run away from it, but, would you take the vaccination?
I was offered it. I did not take it because of the lack of studies. I just feel like John said it was too fast, and we don't know what it does to different people and how it affects different people. So I just kind of want to relax and let the studies be progressed, and then we'll think about taking it.
Okay. And has any of your colleagues taken it, and how have they been?
So yes, a lot. Because I work on a oncology floor, but we kind of med surge now. We're one of the front runners for COVID, so a lot of the COVID patients come on our floor. A lot of the nurses did go ahead and take it. Some of the care partners as well. There were no major adverse effects. So some people maybe had a rash on their arm, a little bit of swelling, but as to the drastic stories that we've heard on the media, I have not seen any. There's a lot of doctors who've taken it. I've worked with many. Some don't even take they allow us to take 3-4 days off to see how the vaccine affects you. Some don't take that time off at all. They come to work, they keep it moving. They've said that there's no change in appetite or anything that lets them show that the vaccine, it's kind of wonky. And some have already are also taking their second dose because the vaccine is in 2 doses, and with the second dose, they're still not seeing anything.
Okay. Madam Debbie Bajuku, would you take the vaccination?
No, because I also feel like it's too short. So no.
You wouldn't?
Not now.
Wow. Okay. And lastly, Raymond, would you take the vaccination after everything that you've been through? Would you take the vaccination?
If I had the opportunity to do so now, if I had the opportunity at any point in time, and I know that, of course, I'll be returning to school, but currently getting it in Ghana is a long shot. But I'll grab it with both hands. I will chase it if I have to pay for it. If I have to pay 10 times the cost for it, even now, I'm not kidding you. I will grab, and I will not only get it for myself, as much as I can raise, I will get it for my family. I will line up people I know, coerce, compel, convince them that they need it to survive. It is a chance at survival. And if you've been at the precipice that I have been, a slightest opportunity of hope of survival is not what you toil with. And I get you. Some of these people, they are in relatively established healthcare systems. So the risk that some of us are pre-exposed to immediately are not their biggest headaches. But compared to the amount of money I've spent, compared to the toil and the tribulation I've gone through within a few days, I will grab it, hold on to it, and if they are giving excess doses of it, I'll take it. Now, now, to be fair, I know people have raised concerns. I am not one to dispute and doubt science in any form. My basic training, in fact, I started off as a science student, and I know that there's also politics around vaccines. But when I put all the pros and cons together, I am extremely convinced that regardless of the politics around it, it will be unconscionable to think that a prudent scientific laboratory process will be shortchanged in this very fundamental way. People will have their grievances. Maybe I am changing my rationality with experience and emotion. It's possible. That aside. But as I've said, if I am given the opportunity, my immediate family, the people I can influence, the people I can say, hey, you are taking it because I say so. None of them will even consider the option of even being on the table and rejecting it.
Oh, wow. Especially what you have been through. I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
If they've walked in your shoe and laid in that hospital and having no breath and thinking that you're going to die, I guess that you will be definitely preaching for people to have
I will go for it with everything within me.
Wow.
If I will take a loan to buy it, if they want me to take loan to buy it, I will take a loan to buy it.
Oh, Raymond, you know what? We thank God for your life. Honestly, we thank God that you've been able to share this testimony. It's a testimony.
Very much so.
Sharing for us this evening. Peggy says, does anyone know where I can have the PCR test done in Ghana?
I did
Noguchi Memorial Center and Nyaho Clinic immediately.
immediately.
Okay, Debbie, where did you get yours
Noguchi,
done?
I had
Nogu-
mine at Legend Laboratory. It's in East Legon, Paul
Okay,
Street. It's a private one.
okay, okay. Yeah, I definitely know that Noguchi, Nyaho Clinic, all of those places do the test in Ghana. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. What? Okay, Vicky says, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us panel. Someone says, what if, what is it? What if you had no other choice to take the vaccine? What if it becomes a requirement for work, travel, and all aspects of life? What would you do, John? You know, having worked with the likes of Jay-Z, you know, big names out there, for you to continue to work with all of these major names and major players, and they say, you know what? Or Jay-Z says, you know what? I'm not gonna work with you because you haven't got the vaccine. What you gonna do, John?
That would strengthen my resolve against it, because that's vaccine shouldn't be forced on people, and that's the problem. We're playing into the hands. This is a very complex situation here, and I was listening to my brother. As much as I have my personal opinion, when it comes to public policy, you have to look at the broad spectrum. Like, everybody was not affected like me. So I wouldn't advise myself to impose my experience on people that didn't experience what I experienced. There's a scale of risk, or a spectrum of risk here, and people have to be able to make their own evaluations to a certain extent. But when we come up with these monolithic, one-size-fits-all plans, you know, we can fix one problem and create 1,000 other problems.
Mm.
Because every environment is different, every individual is different, everybody's reaction to the medicine is different, and I don't think that the solution is the same for everyone. So, I obviously have to cross that bridge when I get to it, if I'm given an ultimatum. But I just think that I just don't like situations where people are forced to lose control of their own bodies and their individual sovereignty with respect to their own self-determination in the way that they make their own decisions. I think that's a slippery slope, and it takes the conversation in a completely different area.
Mm, mm, mm. Okay, Raymond, somebody says that, have you gone back to your normal eating and physical activities?
No, not completely. I'm trying. I'm a fufu person. I've had fufu only twice in the last whole month. That is sacrilegious. It is the best fufu I've had my entire period was today. I am, after this conversation, going to drink the rest of the soup. I think I am only on the road to recovery. And it is increasingly becoming the case that, of course, I still struggle to eat the things I have to eat. I'm unable to eat as much as I want to eat. And I'm unable to actually feel the various chemoreceptors on my tongue respond the way they used to respond in times past. But it is getting back to normal. Luckily, I have a very good cook as a wife. So it is improving. And hopefully I will get back
Raymond, you
to,
are too funny. You know that. You are just
yes.
too funny. Okay, so Millicent says, please do not go, which I agree with you. Just because John, Comfort, Debbie, and Raymond have said the medications that they took doesn't mean that you should go out there and self-medicate. Make sure that you go to the hospital, do the right things. Don't just go and self-medicate with the medications that we have named today. Please, please, please don't go and do that. Everybody reacts to different medications differently. You don't know what you are allergic to. So please don't do that. Okay, so last words. I'll start with Raymond. Raymond, for what would your advice be to people who are watching that are not taking COVID seriously? What is your advice to them?
In all fairness, I think that people ought to take this more serious than they take it. Please, I survived it. Some did not survive it. I know people who have lost family, breadwinners, and all of that. You might not survive it. Don't take the chances, especially if you're in a part of the world where the odds are against you when it comes to proper healthcare, when it comes to access to healthcare, and also when it comes to making sure that the systems are put in right place. Don't risk it. It's too expensive. It is too painful. It is too excruciating an experience that you will not be the winner at the end of the day, even if you have life like I have life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raymond. We wish you a speedy recovery so that you'll be able to eat your fufu and drink your pepper soup and eat your meat and all of that, and get back to your normal self that you used to be. And so we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your testimony to people. And hopefully this will encourage people to keep wearing their masks, to keep social distancing, and to be aware that COVID in Africa, in Ghana, is real. And we must make sure that we are taking the precautions so that we do not get sick. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much once again. And thank you, the rest of the panel, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that was Raymond sharing his testimony to people, to all of you, to say that, look, he was on his deathbed. He nearly died, but he's here today to share the story and to let everybody know that, look, it is real. Don't get it mistaken. Don't be mistaken. But it's very, very real in Ghana. Debbie Bujuku, what would you say to your, fellow Ghanaians that are watching, especially people that have actually traveled in? Because I'm hearing that actually the people that coming from London and US that are bringing it more into the country. What would your advice be to people who are watching?
I mean, just stay safe and do all the things that you're supposed to do. And also don't forget to take your vitamins and stay healthy and try and test. Like, I think a lot of my age mates don't want to test and so on, but I think people should test more and be a bit more responsible because people are doing all kinds of crazy things in the streets. So,
and also the fact that, even the likes of yourself, you haven't been able to work for 2 weeks because I was calling you that I wanted your makeup and you're telling me, then I've got COVID. I can't come. And I'm like, what? And a lot of people who are breadwinners will still probably go to work. This is what's happening.
I know somebody that was like, no, I've gotten this big gig. He was the one that gave it to us. He's gotten the big gig. Like, let me just put the mask on and wear gloves and just quickly go. So we don't know how many people he's going to infect.
Wow.
Because he needs the money. So I don't think I can live with the guilt knowing that I did this and then they went through that pain. Absolutely. So I'd rather just stay home and then be okay. So when I come out, it's like guilt free. I just can't. I can't live with it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Debbie. I hope that tomorrow when you do your final test, it is negative and you are fine and you'll be able to come and go back to work and come and see me very soon. So I'm wishing you all the best. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, so greetings, everybody. My question is for comfort. Can a second COVID contractions be more severe than the first one? And who did your makeup? You look the bomb.
So in my experience with the patients that we've had, some do come back with COVID. Well, I wouldn't say that they come back with COVID. Sometimes they never test negative for COVID, so they have it for long periods of time. It's just that the signs and symptoms kind of kick back in again. It can be severe and it can be non-severe. It's just that they'll just keep testing positive for the COVID. And for Miss Tiffany, I did my makeup, Kalan Artistry. Please follow us on Instagram. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much. Somebody says, Denta, please don't you think that the Ghana government has to make the test free? Life is too difficult and very hard in Ghana. I agree. Tests should be free, especially those ones that cannot afford it. I agree that it should be free. So your last words, comfort to the people who are watching, people who are not taking the COVID seriously. What would your words be to them?
Please take any resources you have seriously. Wash your hands, wear your mask, get tested, get tested, get tested. Just because you are asymptomatic does not mean that you are not spreading it to people who their lives could be in danger when they contract the disease. Also, I would say know yourself, know your health history. It is important that you know if you have any genetic diseases or any illnesses that lead you to having COVID. And if you do get it, it can make it worse. So some people are coming in for COVID and learning they have cancer and they're at stage 3. Things like that, your immune system is compromised. And when you don't know, it makes it worse. Also, please, any signs and symptoms that you get, please come in immediately. I have friends who are like, oh, I have just a little bit of difficulty breathing, but I'm okay. I'm like, no, it's not okay, because I've had patients who came in with difficulty of breathing and they're like, oh, we're okay. But they come in, they have fluid in their lungs and we have to do a chest tube and they have to get the fluid out of their lungs. We've had patients who come in, oh, I'm okay. They're talking. The next minute I go do another set of vitals. They're down, clammy, cold. We have to transfer them straight to ICU. And some of them don't come back up to our floor. They're transferred to the morgue. So please take COVID seriously. If you do contract it, please quarantine, take your medications rigorously. Do not, and if you have any signs and symptoms from the medication, please let the doctors know, because they do know. Also, if you have the option to do the plasma infusion, which is when COVID patients who have previously had COVID also get to now COVID positive, please think about it and look into it and do more research and accept it if you can, because it's really been doing improvements. Because what you're doing is taking the antibodies from somebody who's been positive and has become negative and helping it to kill your antibodies that now have the COVID antigens. So that's all I have to say. Thank you guys. Thank you, Denta, for allowing me to come on the show today. Thank you, John, for your story. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Comfort. God bless you.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best with your nursing. Wish you all the best.
2022.
Yay. Okay, John, thank you so much for joining me on the show and sharing your story.
Thanks for the invitation.
It's an honor to be interviewing you. And I just want you to basically share your last few words with people that are watching right now about the importance of getting tested and, for somebody that's even battling with COVID at the moment.
Well, my words would be just take stock of your health as an individual. It seems like COVID is preying on the weak parts of an individual, whatever those underlying conditions are, and getting regular checkups, being aware of your overall physical health. But health is not just a physical thing. It is also a spiritual and mental thing. So also getting to a state of physical and mental, spiritual and mental readiness. I think we don't talk about that enough. I think if you were to get into a battle with it, it is going to take some willpower. It's going to take some spiritual resistance and some mental fortitude and strength to endure it. So really thinking about all three dimensions of one's being and being prepared. I think also being guarded psychologically, because that's another area I don't think is being addressed. People that are going to the extreme in terms of fear and isolating themselves and really, anticipating the worst. And really, it's psychologically, there are some things setting into people that that may end up being worse than COVID in terms of what's happening to a lot of people's mental health. So there are a broad spectrum of things that we really need to deal with. But in terms of COVID, I think really being aware of where one stands in terms of their health is what I would advise.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. And John, how is it like having 9 children?
Well, it's interesting. It's something that expands you as an individual, because with each child comes a lot of responsibility. So multiply that, and you have a lot of responsibility. But if you face that responsibility with faith, it can really expand you. I've learned a lot from my children, and they have enriched my life and given me an opportunity to enrich theirs. So I think that's what it's like. It's a nice journey, and it's very educational, very rewarding, but also very challenging.
I mean, I've got 4, right? And I can't think of having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the different personalities, even my 4 with the different types of personalities that they have that you have to deal with. God bless you for being able to have 4 and to be, looking after them the way you do, and just, being that role model as well. I think all the kids that we have need to have good role models. And so I'm just, astonished that in, this day and age, like, people are not having so many kids, but that you've been able to have the 9 and, been able to look after them the way you do.
I think the key is having children, but getting to the point where your children have you.
Wow.
And that means that they accept you as their leader, they accept you as their parent, but there's this reciprocal love that happens. So it's, of course, I don't mean having me in a physical sense, but I mean that, that they own you as a parent, as a person, as an individual in their space. So I had them, but then I worked hard enough to earn their trust. And I think that's the key.
And then are you able to spend time with all of them, and all of them feel the love, the fatherly love from you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a job, but it can be done. And I love all my children. They all love me. So there is reciprocal energy flowing in both directions. And I think
that's lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to seeing you when I get to Ghana.
We can't wait. I can't wait to see you, John. So make sure that you, I'll take your number, and I'll keep in touch with you. And then hopefully when you land, we can meet, have lunch or dinner, and just really talk about what the possibilities are of collaboration or something that we can do in Ghana.
Oh, definitely.
All right, John. Thank you so much. God bless you. Guys, it's been a great show. I hope that you've learned a lot. I hope that you're taking COVID seriously from the stories that you have heard this evening. It is a serious thing. People have come very close to losing their lives, and we should not be taking COVID lightly. I pray that our government is able to give us free testing for everybody, especially people that cannot afford it. I think it's, COVID is on the rise, and it's really, really, really important that we take every precaution that we can. So please, again, wear your mask, social distance as much as possible. If you're feeling that you're feeling sick, go and get checked out. It's so, so important. To my beautiful fans and people watching the show today, thank you so much. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you share the pages, let people watch it. And also, I just want to say, look, if you haven't already purchased my daughter's shea butter and support and hair, this is a time that you can go and purchase some of her products. Go on www.ariasharebutter.com. And again, don't forget to buy your beautiful cards from Aya. Christine is, our Goober chair, and she has this amazing cards, guys. I'm trying to see if I can find the link to share with you. This is Aria's website, and I'm trying to find Chris, if you have it, can you send it to me? I don't know why it's not on my screen. And I can share it. So guys, that you can go on and purchase beautiful cards that actually resonate with us, cards that you can, it looks like you can see your dark skin on there, and people that you can relate to. Caroline, thank you so much for watching. MG, Anne-Marie, Christina, all of you, thank you so, so, so much. And don't forget to share your pages. Let somebody get to know the show and to watch it. Again, guys, don't forget to go to www.worldremit.com and send money back home to a loved one. I really appreciate all of you. If there's a particular topic that you guys want me to, it's been shared. That's Chrissy's websites for a card store. Go on there and purchase a card, guys. Let's support each other. Again, if you're looking for the best shito and the best spice, go to prodigyfoods.co and make sure that you go and get a product. Madagascar have come up with a remedy. Yes, they did come up with a remedy. I actually interviewed the Minister of Information or Communication, one of them, a few months last year sometime I interviewed them. But guys, stay safe. It's early in the year. We don't want to hear bad news, especially if it's something that we can prevent from happening. Let's make sure that we prevent it from happening. So God bless you all. And hopefully I will see you next week. If there's any particular topic that you want us to discuss, if there's anybody that you'd like us to bring onto the show, we can definitely do that. So guys, thank you so much. God bless you all, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.